Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and this video is brought to you big thanks to the EA Creator Network. It is also tagged as an ad because I was gifted with early access to the brand new expansion pack, which is of course Life and Death, to go over for you all to explore it to its fullest so that I can give you all the information before it's released. This video is the first one kicking it off. We are stepping into the afterlife with the Grim Reaper, and we're going to be exploring the brand new world, which is Ravenwood. Things always get a little spooky in Ravenwood. The Whispering Glen, with its nightly moon revelry festivities, is perhaps the most normal part of the area, where locals have settled down for a slice of quiet country life. Crow's Crossing Village, however, is clearly quite haunted, swings swaying by themselves, that merchant fellow down by the crypt, and scary little Edith guarding the well of longing and regret. But despite the hauntings, the living have certainly made it their home as well, with a variety of festivals and places to explore. Mourningvale is where things get extra ethereal. It's well known as a home for ghosts and those seeking them. Sometimes Grim even stops by. You're gonna be cozying up with the Grim Reaper a fair amount in this world. And across these three neighborhoods of Ravenwood, we have 13 lots in total. There is also an extra one, making it technically 14, but one of them is in Mourningvale. It's kind of not on the map because it's obviously the lot where you can go to work in the active Grim Reaper career. You can't live on it, but you can enable free build, and you can actually rebuild this. I would probably keep Grim's little chest that he rewards people with on the job somewhere on the lot and don't delete it, just because I don't know how it works if you do delete it. I don't know if you can get that back, but just be wary of that item. But you can just edit this freely. You can build it however you want to build it. Same as the get to work lots. Mourningvale is the one in the top left. That's obviously through the veil. You can kind of see the mist surrounding it. Everything feels very eerie here. It's very green. It's very glowing. It's kind of the underworld, the ghostly presence is all around here. Then you have Whispering Glen, which is more of the countryside, like rolling farmlands, and then Crow's Crossing is kind of the town center where a lot of the hustle and bustle will take place. Crow's Crossing is also where you will find the brand new lot type, which is of course the cemetery. With graveyard being a new lot type, it does mean that you can in fact build these anywhere. They don't just only have to be in Ravenwood, which I'm so happy about. I cannot wait to hop into my short lifespan legacy and also Hemford on Bagley and build one of these. If we peer through the veil, there's something otherworldly about Mourningvale. Maybe it's the way the wind howls through the moss-draped trees, the eerie clang from the bell tower at odd hours, or the sentient plants. No matter the reason, many ghosts choose to call this place home. The Grim Reaper has even been known to wander through now and then. Sims can find the baleful bog here, investigate the tarot tome shrine by the bell tower, or listen to the whispers of the guardian tree and Alice. Mourningvale hosts a variety of festivals, the Afterlife Anonymous and also the Thinned Festival. Be sure to check out the town hall for more information. There is actually a town hall in both Mourningvale and Crow's Crossing, but even though this is kind of the like ethereal ghostly vibe, any sim can actually visit this neighborhood. It's not just like blocked off to ghost sims. You can come here whenever. It's really quite an interactive neighborhood, and it's made up of 4 lots. You have 2 30 by 30 lots, 1 30 by 20, and then 1 20 by 20. The first 30 by 30 is a nightclub. This has already been pre-built for you, and it's called Club Eternity. It takes the saying, dance like no one is watching, both figuratively and literally. If anyone knows how to party, it's the deceased. With a breathtaking dark gothic aesthetic, this club's more macabre patrons thrive, and even skeptics are convinced that ghosts still know how to live. Honestly, I can say one of the coolest bars and nightclubs that we have in the game. I love this place. I think it's really, really sick. Obviously, can't wait to add like DJ decks and a dance floor. Then the 30 by 20 is actually a pre-built residential, which is completely empty. No family living in here, and it's the cozy Casket House. Casket House lies nestled along the bog's edge. The air is thick but peaceful, interrupted only by the haunting whispers of Sims entering the afterlife. Many believe the house got its name due to the empty casket inside, but in truth, it was first haunted by Katie Casket, a ghost who finished her unfinished business and was reborn in Willow Creek, or so they say. With its eerie charm, this lot promises potential for any brave mortal ready to make some ghostly friends, or any ghost ready to start fresh in the life beyond. And this actually has the brand new lot trait, which is on hallowed grounds. This lot adds an exciting punch of terror to the otherwise daily mundane. Be it possessed TVs, netherworld treasures, or lowered bills, living or dead, there's something here for everybody. Now, I actually had this on the lot that I was living on throughout my gameplay, and I mainly noticed a lot of dips in the temperature. I could notice my Sim's breath, and they would get a little moodlet that said that it was freezing. The lights were also going out, but I didn't see too much more apart from that. However, you can obviously also stack this with either a haunted house, or you could stack it with haunted that we got with city living to really make the most out of the paranormal elements that we have in The Sims 4. On the 20 by 20 lot here, we already have some townies. This is the Izadi Gomez household. Esther Gomez was already looking for a ghostly roommate when poor Zalika met her end in a rather unfortunate cowplant accident, and also found herself looking for a new home in the same neighborhood. Now the two are sharing a home, and Esther is teaching Zulika the ins and outs of ghostly living and career development working for Grimm. And they reside in the Morning Mist Manor. This green thumb friendly manor is conveniently located in central Mourningvale. One of the standout features of this home is the attached greenhouse, which has been converted into a breakfast nook that looks out over the central plaza. This space is perfect home for any Sims interested in gardening and the afterlife living. And finally, we have the second 30 by 30. This is a completely empty lot that you are free to do with what you wish. It is Mystic Crossroads, recently deceased, living but macabre. This spacious lot is the perfect starter spot for any Sim who is seeking an eerie setting and a charming afterlife aesthetic. Even though this has the aesthetic of kind of being the afterlife within this pack, you can just choose to live here. You can travel here freely. It doesn't matter whether you're a human, another type of a cult if you have other packs within your game, or if you are a ghost. You don't have to travel here through Portal. It just works the same as any other neighborhood where you can freely travel to and fro. Even though I didn't have my Sims live in Mourningvale whilst I was actually playing a lot of my gameplay for this pack, I did enjoy visiting there an awful lot. I just think it feels so different from like any of the regular neighborhoods that we have. Even really the vampiric world and the magic world, they still feel like kind of realistic, even though they are quite like foggy. This genuinely feels different because of the lighting. There's a lot of like blue and green hazes. It also feels very marsh-like. Obviously that makes sense with like the baleful bog. It is built to look swampy. There's a lot of like decaying trees. It kind of reminds me of an area in Red Dead Redemption 2 where you can actually find like a ghost in a forest. But what I also like about these neighborhoods is they are quite interactive. Like they are like really aesthetically pleasing. They're fun just to kind of like have your Sim like walk around in, but then there are little things to do here and there. There's pretty much fishing spots in every single neighborhood. Also a lot of swimmable areas. So you have that in Mourningvale itself, you have the bog, and then I think there's also maybe like a separate river or pond that doesn't kind of have the magic elements that the Baleful Bog does, which, by the way, the Baleful Bog, you can actually go for an out-of-body experience there, which temporarily turns your sim into a ghost for like 7 hours. If you repeat that, then you do run the risk of staying as a ghost forever. So that is a new death that's introduced with this pack. There is also, like I said, the town hall, which is nice. It kind of mirrors the town hall in Crow's Crossing. So if you just want to like write your will and don't want to go into like the living elements of Ravenwood, you can just kind of stay in that one area. There's also a ghost cow plant just out in the wild in this little like square that they have. You can ring the bell tower, which actually spawns the little spirits that we are used to seeing in paranormal stuff, the specters. There is the guardian tree, which kind of looks like this big, thick, decaying tree with like a really hollow face in it. And Alice haunts around here. Alice is an NPC where you can actually do a quest for her. She's known as the Weeping Mother, but you can actually dry her tears, which I thoroughly enjoyed doing, even though it was quite an easy task. It reminded me of the ring bearer that we got in Lovestruck. There are also crypts dotted around pretty much every neighborhood, so you can go exploring. And then Mourningvale also had a couple of like little graves scattered around alongside coffins. So if you're a ghost and you want to just sleep in an object, you obviously can. Even if you're a sim, you can just tuck yourself away in the casket and sleep in there to get your energy up. Honestly, pretty good for rags to riches. Next up, we have Whispering Glen. Nestled in the rolling hills of Ravenwood's countryside, Whispering Glen offers a quiet, rural locale for those hoping to take a step away from all the local hauntings and into a slower-paced lifestyle. Steeped in ruins and rumors, it's paradise for collectors and historians alike. Explore the local crypt, investigate the Tarot Tome Shrine at the base of the ruins, garden in the shared community plots, or just round out a collection. Whispering Glen also hosts a nightly festival beside the ancestor face cliff, the Moon Revelry, clothing optional during the full moon. Whispering Glen is again made up of 4 lots in total. There are 2 30 by 30 lots, 1 50 by 50 lot, and then 1 humongous 64 by 64. Builders, I can hear you cheering from here. First up, we have the Gomez household. They reside on one of the 30 by 30 lots. Having tried being a ghost on for size, Radwan and Zipporah Gomez have decided that being a ghost isn't for them, at least not quite yet. Meanwhile, Radwan has his hands full keeping his clumsy wife from meeting Grim a little too soon. In the midst of all this chaos, their teenage child, Zelmira, has plunged headfirst into their own study of the afterlife after finding a tarot card on a walk one day. Now Zelmira is embracing their inner macabre side and finding unique connections in the family's past to a very special member of the Goth family. Things definitely seem to be getting a bit spooky for this household. And that Goth family connection stems from the tarot cards that you can collect out in the world. They are actually very much tied to Lady Raven Dancer Goth, who happened to be a spellcaster. Obviously a goth is actually referenced to in The Sims 3 when it comes to a magical book that you can purchase off the Sims 3 store. I know Jessie is probably gonna go into this lore in her video, so definitely go check out Plumbella's video on this pack if you want to find out more. But if you actually complete the collection, then you do get the chance of meeting with her ghost. They live in Teardrop Cottage. This large family cottage is perfectly situated on the river's shores under the watchful gaze of the ancestor. It's only a hop, skip, and a jump away from the nightly Moon Revelry Festival as well. If that doesn't sell it, the wraparound porch is the perfect reminder that sometimes it's good to slow down and enjoy the small things. Moving on to the 64 by 64, which is Hay Hill Landing. This empty plot of land nestled among the pastoral rolling hills is the perfect locale for Sims aspiring to live a simplistic rural life. A family living here will always find themselves just down the old dirt lane from their neighbors, and always under the ever watchful gaze of the ancestor across the river. That's the big face that you can see carved out actually on the riverbank. The 50 by 50 lot is in fact already taken. I'm sorry, I cannot wait to see how many of you kick this family out ASAP, but it is the Ether household. After a miscommunication with a pet crow, Kai Ether found himself in a less corporeal form than expected. It's a story familiar to many families, but there's an unfortunate wrinkle to this story that has made things extremely stressful for not just Kai's husband Ekida, but also for their son Takama. You see, not only does Kai not seem to understand that he's dead, he also doesn't believe in ghosts, period. Awkward, right? But with the help of local support group and with the love of his family, maybe Kai will start to see the light. Obviously, Kai is in fact one of the new traits, which is skeptic. Their house is the Marigold Chateau. This rustic chateau has existed in its rolling countryside setting for over a century now. When the Ethers moved in, it was renovated, and it's clear someone really liked the color pink. In a region that so often celebrates the macabre, the wildflower gardens outside provide a cheery place to celebrate life in its many forms. I will say, this neighborhood has a lot of gorgeous like flower beds. And then lastly, there's the second 30 by 30 lot, which is in fact a bar. It is the Final Draft, a cozy establishment welcoming all beings. The draft's regulars come for the dim lighting, comfortable seating, and gentle tunes. However, the upstairs is often host to private events, most commonly events for those saying goodbye to their loved ones. This is Ravenwood after all. I do like the representation. Obviously, this world is heavily influenced and inspired by Romania, and I think that's sick to see. Like, even the way that the haystacks are made up and the fences that they've used, they're relevant to the geography, and I love that. There is just kind of like fishing spots. There's a couple of places for you to have like a little communal garden because there's like a couple of planter boxes dotted around. There is also the swimmable river, and then there's a ton of castle ruins, but the castle ruins are mainly just for decoration. There's one point which has like a split level, which is actually really cool, and it's kind of like the castle steps on like a wall, which does kind of give me castle ruin vibes. But then there's a crypt at the top, but there's just not as much interactivity in this specific neighborhood as there are in other ones. I also don't particularly like it because there's an awful lot of shells, and I feel like when you have an overcrowding of shells, it can get really confusing because you don't actually know what is a usable lot and what isn't. They actually look quite realistic, and I did find that was unfortunate. And last but certainly not least is a Crow's Crossing. I probably know this one the best just because I spent the most time here. It is a village founded by Moppy the goat and rumored to be frequented by ghosts and regular hauntings. Visit the mysterious merchant in the old Spectre graveyard, investigate the Tarot Tome shrine on the edge of town, explore an abandoned house, or grant a wish at the Well of Longing and Regret. Just watch out for Edith. Crow's Crossing hosts a variety of festivals such as Try Before You Die Casket Sale, Crow's Crossing Celebration of Life, and the Ravenwood Family Day. Be sure to check out the town hall for more information. This is actually the biggest out of the neighborhoods, clocking in a whopping 5 lots in total. There are 2 30 by 20 lots, 1 30 by 30, 1 50 by 50, and yet another 64 by 64, 64, 64 Zoo Lane. Speaking of the 64 by 64, it is of course the lot type cemetery. This is Eternal Hollow, is Ravenwood's primary cemetery. The main building is an intimate locale to say goodbye to the recently passed, and with plenty of graves and crypts still open, it will continue to be a popular location for burials for years to come. Locals to Ravenwood know Eternal Hollow's pond is also one of the better places to find a death frog, or the rare bonefish. Whether a sim is spending their forever here or just visiting, they they will certainly feel at home in Eternal Hollow. Then, of course, we have the return of the iconic Spectre household from The Sims 2. Unfortunately, Ophelia isn't here because this is in fact a slightly younger version of Olive that we are seeing. The Spectre family has an air of mystery to them. Rumor has it that Olive's prior husbands all met unfortunate ends, which makes things rather awkward now that she is engaged to Lane Coffin. Laying in a coffin. All of her husbands have pun names, like Euthanasia. The founding and sole member of the band Withering Widdershins. Are we getting a bands pack? I hope so. Does Lane know his soon-to-be Spectre spouse has skeletons in her closet? He's definitely not going to be asking too many questions about her son Nion's mysterious parentage. Let's just say that maybe Grimm's not keeping tabs on their household solely because of Olive's past loves. Yes, you heard it here. The one and only nervous subject has a name. Nion Spectre is apparently what he was known as before he became nervous subject trapped in the Beaker's basement in The Sims 2. He is a teenager, so again, he's a slightly younger version. He's a nervous subject that we haven't actually met as Simmers just yet. They actually live in one of the 30 by 20 lots, and it's the Spectre family manor. For decades, this home has housed the Spectre family, but now its history is closely tied to Olive Spectre, a widow many times over. This house sits almost like a crow on its perch, watching the Spectre cemetery below and waiting for yet another skeleton to join the closet. Or in this house's case, maybe the basement. Yep, check out the lower level of this house. All I can say is Olive Spectre, if I even get a whiff of that basement, I am gone, love. And again, this has the lot tray of Unhallowed Grounds. Then on the 30 by 30 lot, there is actually a pre-built empty home, so no townies reside here. This is Crow's Perch, nestled at the highest vantage in the village. This historic building is the perfect home for any family hoping to get the full Ravenwood experience. Head down to the village square to enjoy any of the 3 local festivals, explore the abandoned houses, or stop by the haunted playground and introduce the kids to Freddy. Everyone's favorite Spectre. You can tell which one's Freddy because he's wearing a funky little bow tie, and I would give my life to that little Spectre. I'm obsessed with him. The second 30 by 20 lot is, again, another pre-built residential that is completely empty, ready for you to move into. This is Moppy Manor. At first, I did think it was meant to be Mopey Manor, but it is Moppy. Obviously, it is dedicated to the one and only Lord and Savior, the Goat. Another Ravenwood historical building that boasts a fascinating past. This home was originally built for Moppy, yes, the Goat. It's now vacant and the perfect home for any sim moving to the region. There's lots to do and plenty of goat-laden architecture to ponder. Just don't be too unsettled if the Moppy statue's eyes glow at night, or if lights start flickering in the abandoned houses next door. It's all part of the aesthetic. Why are you even moving to Ravenwood if you don't want places to be haunted? Then on the 50 by 50 is a humongous old abandoned house. So this has like holes in the roof. It looks incredible. I'm kind of obsessed with this build, not gonna lie. It is the old Ravenwood estate. Everyone in Ravenwood knows about this estate. It's one of the oldest buildings in the village, though it's been vacant for years. Locals whisper about its regal but oddly overbearing presence. The once fastidiously tended garden turned wild, and the lovely abandoned greenhouse on the estate's grounds. Rumor has it this was once the summer home of a powerful spellcaster and tarot reader long ago. If a sim comes along who can get past the flickering lights, foreboding sounds, and other inexplicable happenings inside, they'll have quite the fixer-upper. And also, if you have a cheeky 204,000 simoleons to spare, once again has the lot tray of Unhallowed Grounds. Tarot, spellcaster, definitely hinted that it was owned by Lady Raven Dancer Goth herself. A lot of the interactable stuff that you can do in Ravenwood has kind of already been described, but obviously there is another crypt, and there are actually Olive's graves, or should I say Olive's ex-husband's graves, in the front of their house, which is really cool. There is also a ghost called Waylon here, and he actually sells a bunch of stuff. If you are in the Grim Reaper career, I highly suggest going and checking out Waylon's wares just to see what he is selling. Maybe you need to keep up with your souls quota. There's a lot of shell houses in this area, but it kind of makes a little bit more sense because it's meant to be a little bit more built up than the countryside. However, there are two that are actually interactable. If you are a ghost, you can actually go and haunt these, and it makes like the windows kind of glow and you will hear like noises. And then if you're a sim, you can actually just go and like kind of root through it. All I seemed to get was actually a moodlet. I don't know if they offer anything more than that. Kind of reminded me of the Sims 3 haunted house. There is obviously also the town square. They have the swing sets, but the park has the specters. Like I said, that's where you'll find Freddy. These specters actually help you with grief, so they're kind of like built in to make you happy, make you feel inspired after the death of a loved one, so you can actually ask them for advice and they'll give you, I'm fairly sure, an emotional buff. There is also a fountain which is usable. You can look for frogs in this fountain when one of the festivals is actually going on. There is also areas for fishing. There's the town hall where you can decide to make your will if you want to. You can also just do that on a computer or at one of the family festivals actually in Crow's Crossing. There's the Well of Longing and Regret, which can be found to the side of the old Ravenwood estate. That's where you can find Edith. And then there's also just some like castle ruins, but they aren't interactable, but they do round up the kind of castle ruins nicely. But the townies, it's nothing too exciting. Don't get your hopes up. They do actually have prior relationships, which is something that has pretty much changed since Snowy Escape that I for one am glad about. However, this time around their relationships aren't really mentioned in like the family bios. They're kind of just there, and from what I could see there wasn't too many sentiments. I could only see one new one, but Esther Gomez dislikes Kai and Olive. We don't really know the reason for that. Maybe Z was the Reaper when he passed away, same with Olive. Maybe Z has beef with Olive because Olive keeps them busy. We don't really know, it's not really stated, but Z is the sibling of Sephora, but they are actually only acquaintances. They don't seem to be close at all. Maybe there's a little bit of beef there with potentially Zipporah not really going to visit Esther's gravesite. However, Esther is actually friends with Zelmira. Zelmira uses they them pronouns and Esther uses ze them pronouns. It doesn't surprise me that they're friends because Zelmira is into tarot and is a macabre sim, and Esther is obviously a ghost who's also into tarot, and then Z's also friends with Waylon and Zuleika. Speaking of Zuleika, she is obviously also in the Grim Reaper career. They live together and is also friends with Olive and Waylon. Rodwan actually dislikes Ekade and then is friends with Lane. This is actually where I noticed the one and only sentiments between Rodwan and Zipporah. Obviously, they are married and they actually have the deja vu sentiment, which makes me think that one of them is potentially reborn and they have loved each other in a past life because they feel familiar to each other, which I think is really, really sweet that they've tied that into it. I couldn't unfortunately test that theory myself to see if that actually popped, if that was the story that you were telling, because Rebirth wasn't working in my game, which was a big bummer. But I think it's because we couldn't like save the sim to the library because the library's disabled in early access. I'm just gonna have to hazard a guess at that's maybe why it popped. When I do get my hands on this pack properly, I will absolutely test that for you all. Zipporah also dislikes Olive, so that maybe makes me think that Olive, was she responsible for maybe their father's death? And then Zelmira is also friends with Lady Raven Dancer, and the family feud continues because Zelmira also dislikes Olive, but also throw Waylon in there. I don't know, maybe Waylon's done them wrong when they've tried to sell him something. Ekade is friends with Lane. Kai actually actually dislikes Waylon and Esther, but likes Lane. Takuma actually only knows Nyan outside of his parents. Maybe Nyan sees a little bit of himself in Takuma and is kind of like taking him under his wing, excuse the pun. That kid, I want to know more about him because his father was killed by crows and now all he dresses up as is a crow. Lane pretty much gets on with everyone. He likes Waylon apart from the rest of the people that I have also spoken about. However, him and Nyan actually dislike each other. I'm fairly sure that's probably more on Nyan's side than it is on Lane's side. And then Nyan is also acquaintances of Alice and Edith, which makes me think that he maybe has done the little quest that Alice can set you, which would not surprise me considering he is macabre and he loves all things ghosty. As usual with these more recent packs, they did actually ask a bunch of Sims 4 builders to get on board and build these lots, and they were Sims for me, Sophie the Sim, Kate Emerald, and Create 4 Sims. I'm gonna leave links to all of their pages down below. Considering also that they are such big lots, I think the builders absolutely killed this one. And that pretty much sums it up. That's everything you need to know about Ravenwood. I would absolutely love to hear what you think about this world. Like I said, Mourningvale is definitely my favorite neighborhood. Yes, it's very stylized. Yes, it's obviously probably going to be used for very specific storylines or specific types of Sims that you're playing. Like your macabre Sims are absolutely going to love it. If you play occults a lot, I feel like you could get a lot of use out of it, but it's not probably going to be the neighborhood that you choose to like maybe settle down on and have a little family life if that's how you want to play it. It's a little less realistic, but I love that. I love that it finally feels like they're pushing the boat out when it comes to occults, because even like I said, like Forgotten Hollow and the Realm of Magic World, Glimmerbrook, they still felt like quite realistic, as did Moonwood Mill, whereas this one, they've really pushed it to feel like quite fantasy, quite ethereal, and I love that they took it like to the highest of heights that they possibly could to make it feel that way and to make it feel spooky, to make it feel haunted. And I also just love, like, even though this pack is about life and death and you kind of see that represented in the world, you have like the vibrant like countryside of the Whispering Glen compared to this like decaying Mourningvale. It still feels alive with like things that you can do. I will say, because it feels kind of open worldy, it's got that essence of like the neighborhoods kind of feel open world, because you can like go to a lot of these places such as the well and the town hall and then the park, and when it's like that, it definitely is more spread out, so therefore it doesn't feel like you're running into Sims all that often. That's kind of what you get with that choice. It's like, do you want these like neighborhoods to feel kind of open worldy and be able to go into like all these nooks and crannies and like find different stuff that you don't have to load into a specific lock to then interact with? You can just like travel. If you're a ghost, you can use the new ghost powers to traverse. Would you like that open worldy feeling? Obviously they're not open world, but that's what it feels like, kind of like Moonwood Mill. Or would you prefer these more closed off areas that actually populate and spawn Sims densely populated so that you have a lot of people to interact with? That being said, obviously the NPCs do help with that a little bit, because people will spawn around them. You will see ghosts like floating around, and there does always feel like there's someone to talk to, minus in Whispering Glen. Is going to be fun for those of you who like fixer-uppers, who like challenges. Obviously going to be really fun for the Black Widow challenge, but even like Rags to Riches, having that like banged up, like dinted, like holes in the roof kind of thing is definitely going to help. I appreciate you all so much. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, and I will speak to you all in my next one, which is probably going to be Create a Sim later tonight, and then hopefully my gameplay video tomorrow.